Hello, everybody. I have often been asked that during my my 26 years in America, how many times did I have to face prejudice being a non-white? Um, it's a good question and a very reasonable question, I'm sure. But to tell you the truth, during those 26 years, and even after that, whenever I visited America, I have hardly ever had any problems, really. I can maybe remember a couple, but not much. I remember once I used a credit card, American Express card, in Fred's or Woolworth or something like that, and the girl on the counter, she was a black young lady, and she said, "You foreigners come all the way from foreign countries and instantly have these credit cards and all that. And we are asking for credit cards for so long and we are denied. That's terrible. This shouldn't happen, blah, blah, blah." Huh. I said, "Well, lady, I was without a credit card for many years. I just recently got it, and I am much older than you. So don't worry, you'll get it." But she was mad. She was probably mad at something else, and then this did it. That was one case of a black person uh, showing her prejudice against me, a non-black and also a non-white. Another instance I can think of is our neighbor in Edwards. We had a motel, and right next to it was a restaurant and a petrol pump, a gas station. And it had a nice convenience store too. It was Stuckey's. Stuckey's is a very popular chain in America. They are usually on the exit of interstate highways, and they specialize in ice creams, not much of ice creams, but especially of candy, of pecan rolls and pecan candy and pralines, and also a lot of things like beer and cigarettes and all that. But anyways, the person who managed that Stuckey's, he was an older person, and he didn't like me. Once he came and visited me soon after I bought the place. He said, "Why are you renting rooms to blacks?" I said, "Well, black gives me money, I rent him a room. White person gives me money, I rent him a room. It doesn't matter to me. White, black, yellow." He said, "No, no, no, you should not do that. You should not encourage black to come to this motel. It creates a bad impression of our neighborhood." I said, "Mr. Harris, please, you know." And then, since I didn't listen to him or took his advice, I didn't take his advice. He didn't like me. More power to him. What can I do? Later, yeah, and a couple of times he even asked me, "When are you going home? When are you going back to India?" A few years later, he got out of the restaurant and struck his business. And once I was in Walmart in Vicksburg, and I saw him as a greeter. I said, "Hello, Mr. Ames, how are you?" And he just looked at me. Oh, yeah, I'm fine. I said, "I'm still here." So he just looked at me, gave me a dirty look, and turned his face away. Well, I shouldn't have done that, but I just couldn't resist. These are the two instances I can think of which really were, boom, prejudice. But On the other side of it, I have a very beautiful incident I want to talk about. As usual, I was minding my desk at my motel in Edwards, Mississippi. Small, 20-unit motel, 2 stories, neat, clean, but small. No telephones, no coffee, no nothing. All we had in the rooms was air conditioning and heating, of course, um, television, good color television, and radio, and of course, the usual shower and all that. Okay, I am attending the desk, and middle-aged couple walks in, a white couple, and they just said hello. I said, "Oh, come on in, hello." And the man and the woman, they kind of look at each other, and then the man asks me, "You from India?" I said, "Yeah, I am from India." So the husband and wife, I thought they kind of exchanged glances. So I just waited, and then they smiled. So I couldn't help it. I said, "Well, something I should know." So the lady said, "Look," she said, "I want to tell you a very interesting story. We were traveling and we came through Vicksburg. Vicksburg is about 16 miles or 17 miles um, east of, or rather west of uh, Edwards, Mississippi. It's a river town. It's a tourist attraction place. A lot of motels and everything. And said we wanted to stay there the night. So we go into this big motel. But before we enter, we notice a sign under the motel. He said, "Owned and operated by Americans." So we just wondered, what they meant by Americans. Everybody is an American, isn't it? So we parked the car and went to check the room out and talked to the desk clerk. And this big white guy, he said, "Hey, come on in, blah, blah, blah." So she said, my husband asked him, "What do you mean by American owned? Aren't we all American?" He said, "No, we have some stupid Indians here, foreigners who are taking away all our businesses, blah, blah, blah." Uh, so my husband and I looked at each other and we decided right away, spontaneously, we don't want to stay in a place like this. So we said, "Well, thank you," and walked away. And then, as we were driving, we saw your motel, because our Edwards motel was right on the exit. We saw that and we came in. And lo and behold, you are an Indian. So we want to rent a room here. I said, "Sure, thank you. You won't be disappointed. They're clean, neat rooms, and nothing fancy, but and reasonably priced." He said, "Fine, fine." And then we started talking. They were from up north somewhere, and they were traveling by car. They'd been to Houston, and they'd been to further down El Paso, and then they went up and went to Colorado. I mean, they were just traveling, two of them. And on their way back, they took this route of Interstate 20. Then they were asking me what was I doing in a small town in Mississippi, and I said, "Well, we lived in San Francisco and we moved here." He said, "From San Francisco to Edwards, Mississippi?" I said, "Yeah, that's where my bread comes from." And he said, "Oh, okay." But to conclude, it was a beautiful experience. I was very happy that someone like them are thinking about good things, about non-whites, that they are not prejudiced, that they are not biased, that they are so open minded. Isn't that beautiful? That's how it goes.